It began not with a storm, but with a whisper of air so cold it felt solid. In January 2023, an invisible enemy crept across the vast, rugged landscapes of northern Pakistan. This was no ordinary winter chill. This was a polar vortex, a brutal wave of Siberian cold that descended with a chilling finality. Temperatures didn't just drop, they plummeted to levels not seen in decades. In the mountainous regions of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the mercury sank to a staggering -15 degrees Celsius. The air itself seemed to freeze, turning every breath into a cloud of tiny ice crystals. It was a silent, creeping disaster that caught millions unprepared. The cold was relentless. It seeped through the cracks in mud brick homes and flimsy shelters, a predator hunting for warmth. It turned water pipes into solid blocks of ice and transformed vibrant streams into still, glassy surfaces. For the people living in remote villages, life ground to a halt. Roads became impassable, buried under thick blankets of snow and ice, cutting communities off from the outside world. The very land they depended on for survival had turned against them. This wasn't just a weather event, it was a siege, an assault by nature that tested the limits of human endurance and laid bare the fragility of life in these unforgiving terrains. The initial reports were scattered, filtering out from isolated areas like whispers on the wind. Stories of children falling ill, their small bodies unable to fight the pervasive chill. Tales of livestock, the primary source of wealth and sustenance for many families, freezing to death in their pens overnight. The cold was a quiet killer, its victims often found huddled in their homes, having succumbed to hypothermia in their sleep. It wasn't the dramatic, televised chaos of an earthquake or a flood. It was a slow, creeping tragedy, unfolding behind closed doors and in snow-covered valleys, far from the world's gaze. The true scale of the crisis would only become clear as the days turned into weeks. This extreme cold wave was more than just a meteorological anomaly. It was a stark reminder of a changing world. It exposed deep-seated vulnerabilities within the region's infrastructure and disaster response systems. The very systems designed to protect people were overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the event. It forced a difficult conversation about climate change, about preparedness, and about the deep inequalities that determine who survives such events and who does not. As the frost etched delicate, deadly patterns on window panes across the country, it was also etching a new chapter in Pakistan's long struggle with the forces of nature, a chapter written in ice and loss. In a small windswept village nestled in the Ziyarat Valley, the Bibi family huddled around a single sputtering stove. Fatima Bibi, a mother of 4, watched her youngest son, 7-year-old Ali, with worried eyes. His cough was getting worse, a dry, rattling sound that echoed the fear in her heart. They had run out of firewood 2 days ago and were now burning whatever they could find. Dried twigs, old furniture, even precious books. Every gust of wind that rattled their thin door felt like a physical blow, stealing what little warmth they had.
Every night, I worry if we'll make it till morning. We have nothing left to burn, but I have to keep my children warm somehow.
Their story was not unique. It was the lived reality for thousands of families caught in winter's unforgiving embrace, fighting a desperate battle for warmth and survival.
I can't feel my fingers sometimes. Mama says to keep them close to the fire, but the fire is so small now.
Miles away, in a poorly heated clinic in Quetta, Dr. Arslan Malik was fighting his own battle. He hadn't slept in over 48 hours. His small clinic was overflowing with patients, mostly children and the elderly, suffering from frostbite, severe pneumonia, and hypothermia. The power was intermittent, and essential medicines were running dangerously low as supply lines were cut off by the snow. Dr. Malik worked tirelessly, his own hands numb from the cold, trying to save lives with dwindling resources. He saw the human cost of the cold wave up close, the blue-tinted lips of a child, the vacant stare of an elderly man who had lost his fight. He felt a growing sense of helplessness against an enemy he couldn't see.
We do what we can, but sometimes it just isn't enough. I wish we had more blankets, more medicine, more time.
In a remote hamlet in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, village elder Rahim Khan organized his community with the wisdom of generations. He knew the old ways of surviving the harsh mountain winters. He directed the younger men to pool their remaining firewood and food supplies, ensuring that families with young children and the elderly were cared for first. He taught them how to insulate their homes using traditional methods, packing mud and straw into cracks and covering windows with thick blankets. Rahim Khan became a beacon of leadership, his calm and steady presence a source of strength for his frightened community. His actions were a testament to the power of collective resilience in the face of overwhelming odds.
We have survived many winters, but this one is different. We must help each other or we will not survive at all.
These three stories, a mother's love, a doctor's dedication, and an elder's wisdom, paint a vivid picture of the human drama that unfolded during the cold wave. They represent the countless untold tales of courage and struggle across the region. While the statistics and temperature readings tell one part of the story, it is these personal accounts that reveal the true heart of the crisis. They show us not just the suffering, but also the incredible strength of the human spirit. They are the faces of a community bound together by a shared struggle, fighting to keep the flame of hope alive against the encroaching frozen shadows. The 2023 cold wave did more than just freeze the land. It exposed the deep and dangerous cracks in Pakistan's disaster preparedness infrastructure. While meteorological departments issued warnings, the message often failed to reach the most vulnerable. In remote mountain communities, where internet access is non-existent and literacy rates are low, official alerts are meaningless. There was a critical breakdown in communication, leaving millions unaware of the severity of the approaching cold. Families like the Bibis had no advance notice to stock up on essential supplies like fuel, food, and medicine. This lack of a robust last-mile warning system turned a predictable weather event into a deadly emergency. The crisis was further compounded by a systemic lack of resources and planning. Hospitals and clinics in the affected regions, like Dr. Malik's, were not equipped to handle a mass casualty event of this nature. They lacked backup generators, insulated facilities, and stockpiles of necessary medical supplies. Emergency shelters were few and far between, and those that existed were often little more than unheated buildings, offering scant protection from the extreme temperatures. The response was reactive rather than proactive. Authorities scrambled to deliver aid only after the crisis had peaked, but by then, snow-blocked roads made many areas completely inaccessible, leaving entire communities stranded and alone for days on end. This tragedy also highlighted a critical awareness gap among the population. Many people simply did not understand the life-threatening dangers of extreme cold. They didn't know the early signs of hypothermia or frostbite, nor did they know the most effective ways to stay warm and safe with limited resources. Children continued to play outside without adequate clothing, and families slept in poorly ventilated rooms with fuel-burning stoves, leading to tragic cases of carbon monoxide poisoning. Public health campaigns on winter safety were clearly insufficient. The disaster underscored an urgent need for widespread, accessible education on how to prepare for and survive such extreme weather events. Ultimately, the cold wave served as a harsh lesson. It demonstrated that having a disaster management plan on paper is not enough. That plan must be tested, funded, and capable of functioning under the worst-case scenarios. It requires building resilient infrastructure, from all-weather roads to properly equipped health facilities. It means creating communication systems that can penetrate the most isolated corners of the country. The suffering and loss of life in January 2023 were not just a result of the cold. They were a direct consequence of these systemic failures. It was a painful reminder that in the age of climate change, preparedness is not an option. It is a matter of life and death. The unprecedented cold that gripped Pakistan was not a random act of nature. According to climate scientists, it was a clear symptom of a planet in turmoil. Dr. Aisha Khan, a leading climatologist at Lahore University, explains the connection.
We're seeing a destabilization of the polar vortex. As the Arctic warms at a much faster rate than the rest of the planet, the jet stream that normally contains that cold air becomes wavy and weak. This allows frigid polar air to spill southwards, bringing extreme cold snaps to regions like South Asia. This phenomenon, often called an Arctic outbreak, means that even as the globe warms on average, we can expect more frequent and intense extreme weather events, including brutal cold waves.
Understanding this science is the first step towards adaptation, but surviving the immediate threat requires practical knowledge. Staying safe during a cold wave comes down to a few simple but crucial principles. The most important is insulation. Insulating your body and your home. Wearing multiple layers of loose-fitting clothing is far more effective than one thick garment. The air trapped between the layers acts as an excellent insulator. At home, simple measures can make a huge difference. Use towels or rags to block drafts under doors and windows. Cover windows with blankets or plastic sheeting at night to prevent heat from escaping. These small actions can significantly raise the temperature inside a room.
Recognizing the signs of cold-related illnesses is also critical for survival. Hypothermia, a dangerous drop in body temperature, often begins subtly with shivering and confusion. If someone is mumbling, stumbling, or seems unusually drowsy, they need immediate medical attention. The best first aid is to get them to a warm place, remove any wet clothing, and cover them with dry blankets. Frostbite is another serious risk, most commonly affecting fingers, toes, nose, and ears. The affected skin may look white or grayish-yellow and feel unusually firm or waxy. It's crucial not to rub the frostbitten area, but to warm it gently with body heat or lukewarm water.
Beyond personal safety, community preparedness is key. Every household should aim to have an emergency kit with essentials to last for several days. This includes non-perishable food, clean drinking water, flashlights, batteries, a first aid kit, and any necessary medications. A battery-powered or hand-crank radio is vital for receiving updates if the power goes out. Checking on elderly neighbors and families with young children is not just an act of kindness, it's a fundamental part of community resilience. By understanding the risks and taking these practical steps, individuals and communities can transform from being helpless victims of the weather into active participants in their own survival. As temperatures slowly began to climb and the snow started to melt, a massive relief effort swung into action. Pakistani army helicopters airlifted food, medicine and blankets to the most isolated villages, their rotors beating a rhythm of hope against the silent mountains. On the ground, rescue teams worked around the clock to clear snow-clogged roads, reconnecting stranded communities with the outside world. Aid organizations, both local and international, set up mobile health clinics and distribution points for emergency supplies. The sight of these relief workers, braving the lingering cold to help strangers, was a powerful testament to the compassion and solidarity that emerged from the crisis. The tragedy of the 2023 cold wave became a catalyst for change. The government, along with disaster management agencies, began a thorough review of their preparedness and response mechanisms. There was a renewed push for investment in early warning systems that could effectively reach remote populations. Plans were drafted to build more disaster-resilient infrastructure, including underground water pipes that won't freeze and better insulated public buildings that can serve as effective emergency shelters. The hard lessons learned from the frozen chaos were being translated into concrete action, with the goal of ensuring that such a preventable tragedy would not happen again. At the community level, the experience forged unbreakable bonds. Neighbors who had shared their last piece of bread, who had checked on one another through the coldest nights, emerged with a deeper sense of unity. The leadership of elders like Rahim Khan inspired a new generation to value traditional knowledge while embracing modern preparedness strategies. Communities began organizing their own emergency response plans, creating local stockpiles of supplies, and designating volunteers to check on the most vulnerable members. The shared trauma had given way to a shared determination to build a safer, more resilient future from the ground up. The frozen shadows of January 2023 will long linger in the memory of Pakistan. The lives lost serve as a solemn reminder of the growing threat posed by a changing climate and the urgent need for preparation. Yet, from the depths of this icy crisis, a powerful message of hope emerged. It is a message of human resilience, of community strength, and of the unyielding spirit that can find warmth even in the coldest of times. The thaw brought not just the promise of spring, but the promise of a new beginning, a future where lessons learned from the ice will protect generations to come.